Good morning everybody guys, now I'm talking about this first part of English coaching presented by Zappone Massimo. In this slide it's important to analyze one of the most important monuments visited by English citizens called the Big Ben, which is the nickname of 13th Bell, near to the Houses of Parliament, and you can observe a red touristic bus that circulate on the road, red like the London flag. Okay, that's all for this first slide. In this second slide, it's important to analyze the picture in which there is the concept of immigration. Immigration means that immigrants move to the United States of America, to the Statue of Liberty, like from the worst working condition and climate conditions. Therefore, the immigrants move to the United States in order to research better working and climate conditions without strong variation of temperatures. And in this link, it's important to underline that businesses, several businesses, for example, groceries, school, hairdresser shop managed by Andrea Toro, the titular of this shop, decided to close in protest against Trump's immigration policies, okay, and in order to demonstrate the reclamation due to these policies, several people decided to, on Monday, them to show the advice, the banner with the message, "Immigrants has built this nation," okay. And then, to conclude, it's important to say that without immigrants, as affirmed Andrea Toro, without immigrants, United States of America can't work, sorry. And also, immigrants are the solidarity of the European Union and the America, and also the immigrants are the important human resources for the labor market, okay? That's all. About the third slide, it's important to analyze the promises of Donald Trump during the election 2024 that won against Kamala Harris. But before to explain these promises and economic plans, it's important to analyze the following economic concepts. For example, inflation is the increase of the prices of goods, okay? And the inflation is monitored by the CPI, Consumer Prices Index, at the point of sales, okay? And CPI, Consumer Prices Index, is the measure of the level of prices that monitorate the basket of goods. Deflation is the decrease of the prices that go down about the certain goods. Tariffs, what's the meaning of tariffs? Tariffs is the main form of protectionism adopted by Donald Trump in order to protect the American factories from foreign competition. And with tariffs, the main form of protectionism, you increase the prices of imported goods. For example, Donald Trump decided to apply the 25% of duties to the imported cars, okay, in our country and also in the European Union, sorry. And so about the agricultural products, Coldiretti affirmed that with the duties applied by Donald Trump, 25%, repeat this percentage, there is less production and there is an increase of the unemployment in Italy, okay? And also with the negative economic effects, Piazza Milano Affari demonstrated that the values of shares decreased, okay? And about the United States of America, Donald Trump applied the tariffs in order to increase the purchasing power, and therefore the American people can buy more products made USA, okay? And also, as reported by Donald Trump, tariffs consent that there isn't a deficit. Deficit is when the outwards financial flows exceed the inwards financial flows. entrate finanziarie, ok? Taxes instead means the amount of money that people pay to the state, to the country, okay? And an example of this generic term of taxes is the tax income, or based on the earnings, and the tax income return, okay? And therefore, taxes are used in order to finance the public expenditure. Good. About the promises of Donald Trump during his conference, it's important to say that Donald Trump promised that inflation won't be increased, okay? However, the Peterson Institute, together Nobel Prize economists, affirmed that with his policies, the inflation will increase, and therefore the consumer prices will increase, will be higher, okay, for the United States of America, and it's difficult to buy more American goods. Then it's important to underline that about the immigration, Donald Trump applied the mass deportation in order to demonstrate that immigrants stole the job and therefore spend more money on housing, contributing to an higher pressure to the prices. And also about, to conclude this first part of English coaching, Peterson Institute affirmed that a politicized Fed, which is a bank that tries to increase the tax of interest in order to maintain the tax of inflation around 2%, underlines that a politicized Fed not allow to combat, to fight the inflation. Okay, guys. And about this article, as reported TGCom 24, China decided to apply counter tariffs, passing by 84% to 125%. A Chinese reaction of the President Xi, and therefore it's officially the commercial war between China, Europe, and Donald Trump, USA. Okay, it's important, the dialogue, the negotiation, in order to avoid misunderstanding between European member states and also abroad. Okay. About the second part of English coaching, it's important to analyze the second part of English coaching. I did a reading comprehension certificated B1 concerning the topic sport. In this picture, there are 4 people who are doing a different training plan, okay, managed by a private instructor. And if you decide to stop your membership, the access to the gym if you decide to stop your membership, you don't pay anything, it's free, okay? And also the position of the gym is easy, and also the gym is in the center of the town near the public transport with more parking, okay? And about the fifth slide, it's important to analyze the TDX podcast conversation, in which I watched a YouTube video that explains one of the 10 ways to do a better conversation. For example, it's important to adopt an active listening, considering the tone of the voice when you communicate to the teacher, to the people, to the children. And then it's important also to avoid the multitasking. Therefore, it's important to do an activity, but you don't have to do another activity at the same moment. It's important to avoid repeating yourself, okay? And finally, if you say don't know, say don't know, okay? In a TDX conversation, when you communicate with a person, okay? So, and other 10 ways, if I remember, to do a better conversation. Surely don't multitask, but also use open-ended questions, simple, okay? And you don't pontificate. Therefore, when you enter in a speech, you have the mind that you are coming to learn, not teach, as a teacher, okay? Perfect. About the sixth slide, it's important to explain the differences and similarities during a student discussion, the oral test between our planet Earth and the Mars. About the dimension, student 2 affirmed that the Mars is smaller than Earth and also the Mars is colder than Earth. Then about the analogies, both planets have water, therefore Earth is composed by 70% of water. Instead, in the past, the Mars had a huge ocean. Okay. And about the colors, Mars is red. Instead, the Earth is blue. Good. And that's all for this slide. To conclude about the last slide, it's important to explain the reasons of why expressions like ladies and gents, couples, partners, and women and men are offensive. Surely one of the most important reasons are that single people have a bad status of relationship for this expression, repeat. And so, to avoid this incomprehension, this misunderstanding referring to the politically correct, it's important to use alternative American expressions such as, like larks and robins, leads and bears, and also it's important to adopt, for example, referring to the teacher, the genderless language, okay, in the musical context, as affirmed by Folk Dancers School Society of England. It's clear. To conclude, it's important to adopt an appropriate language to avoid the incomprehension between callers, teachers, dancers, in order to guarantee the inclusion in the pub or in the disco. That's all.